Dope. All right. And rolling there. I gotta get some glasses. For real.
Glasses?
Glasses. My eyesight's so bad.
Are you nearsighted? Farsighted?
It's different with both eyes. So with this one, completely nearsighted, but it has to be between it has to be pretty close, like 6 inches for me to actually read it. Like right now, it starts to get blurry around there, and then it just goes crazy.
It's just one eye.
One eye, but with this one, it's the opposite.
Oh, weird. I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, it's strange.
Where like one eye is nearsighted, one eye is like farsighted.
Yeah.
Strange.
It's very weird, and it's even stranger just because I had an eye exam last year or 2 years ago, and they found a scar in the back of this eye, like way back there, and apparently it's been there for years.
How do you get a scar back there?
I don't know. They said it was some kind of trauma or something.
Someone punched you?
That could have been it, maybe. And maybe I just blocked it out of my memory. Or something like that.
That's so strange.
Yeah.
Have you heard of those blue light glasses?
I have a pair.
You do?
Yeah.
How do you feel about them?
It just depends. I mean, I find it, like I would get headaches when I work. And I'm trying to figure out if it's a lack of caffeine, something in my diet, or if it was the screens.
Yeah.
So I bought them. They're fairly cheap.
Yeah, you can get them on Amazon for relatively cheap.
Yeah, that's where I got my pair. And it was like $15 I think. But I wore them, and I thought they started working, but I found that it was just something I was eating, because after a while I would still get headaches. They do help with the squinting, though. With the bright screens? Yeah.
I mean, there's different studies that are kind of conflicting about whether or not blue light, how much it affects you. But it might just be dehydration. Maybe that's why you're getting headaches.
Hey, man. You're absolutely...
Or caffeine withdrawals, like you said.
Well, it's terrible because during the week, I'm trying to stay super healthy.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, I appreciate it. So,
I was going to say you looked like small, like thinner or something from the last time I saw you, which was I saw you at the Christmas party, and you looked like you had lost weight or something.
Yeah.
I didn't know if it was I was like, there's something different. But I saw you at the Christmas party, and I hadn't seen you since a while before that. So.
No, I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean,
Have you lost weight? Or?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, I think when we first started working together, when we first met, on the holiday video.
Yeah.
So, maybe I should do an introduction before we get
Okay,
into
yeah.
All right. So how would you like to be introduced? Because you're in acting, yoga. Kimberly. Yes. There we go. I'm Homero.
Hi.
You know me already. But yeah, I mean, that's one thing I really admire about you, because you just keep going and you do so much health-centric, it seems.
Right.
Yeah?
Yes.
I love that.
I'm all about healthy lifestyles, and I feel like the healthier you are as a person, the better your work is going to be as an actor, as a performer. So
absolutely, I get that.
They're related.
Yeah, I get that, man. I mean, in my journey, the past year especially, because I think when we first met, I was about 185. And before then, I already started to lose some weight, or try to. But then this year, I started fasting. And so, so like I started it with 16 hours, then went to 20 hours. And this week, started Wednesday, I was like, fuck it. 22 hours. Just go for it.
Fasting for 22 hours. So that's like a fine line between fasting and anorexia.
You think so?
I mean, I don't know. So that's another thing. There's conflicting studies out there.
Absolutely.
But you just have to trust your own body. And, that you do go into sort of like a systemic healing mode when you're not. That's the theory, is that when you're fasting, all your energy isn't going to digestion and your body's in repair mode.
Right.
So, that's the theory behind all of that. So I get it. And if it works for you, it works for you. But I guess... you have to trust your own.
No, for sure. I'm with you. It's all about how you feel.
Right.
I tried going vegan for about a month.
Oh. Okay.
And it was like a vegan June thing that my work did.
Yeah.
And that was fine. It was tough, not so much because I wanted to eat, carbs, and because I not only limited it to veggies, I wanted it to have no grain.
No grain.
No grains, nothing, no carbohydrates. And
would that be like keto more?
I think it's
just low carb.
Low carb. Well, keto
no
is
carb.
I had some because I had like potatoes and stuff like that.
Okay.
You know, so but I just wanted to stay away from grain and gluten.
Okay.
And I like the way I felt, but I just missed meat. I've always loved meat. And I was listening to another podcast, and on that, it was about going just carnivore. So there's a few celebrities that just completely carnivore.
Right.
And I tried that for the next month.
You're trying all these fad diets.
Yeah.
Every extreme.
That's just the
Cut
way
out all carbs.
Yeah.
No, only meat.
Yeah. And so now I'm in a place where during the week I fast 18 to 24 hours.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, 18 to 22, and I narrow the window between 6 and 4.
Mm-hmm.
And even in that window, Monday through Friday lunch, no carb, just meat and veggies. So last week I had just ribeye, broccoli, and then like a protein shake. That was it.
Lots of protein.
But fat too.
Yeah.
Yeah, like butter all over that ribeye, and it's already like a fatty cut of meat.
Yeah.
So that until Friday. I'll work out every day. I'll do like running and then weights. And then on Friday night and like Saturday and Sunday, I go ham, man. I'll just eat whatever.
Okay, so that's sort of like your interesting.
Yeah, but I still fast those days. It's just the window's wider, so from 8 to 10 hours.
Oh, so you're still fasting, but then when you do eat, it's whatever you want versus just meat and fat.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, if it's working for you, it's working for you. So I recently got a certificate as an ACE nutrition.
Congratulations.
My title is a fitness nutrition specialist.
Okay.
So I learned a lot about nutrition through that certification and health in general. And,
how long was that course?
So it was an online course. It took me about a year. But that's because I was really busy and with a lot of different things. So
hey, life, man.
It was hard for me to make time to like sit down and study and take all the quizzes and but it took me about a year. It probably, if you focused on that and nothing but that, it could take a lot less time.
Okay.
But anyway, so I learned a lot about nutrition and whatnot, and I think in general, it's best to have balance. Everybody's different. Everyone's unique, but it's good to get your vitamins from natural foods.
Absolutely.
It's good to have produce,
Oh, yeah. Whole foods.
Yeah. And if you're avoiding gluten and grain, that's great. You can have like complex carbohydrates are important though. And, it's about balance. Like these extreme diets, like I'm only going to eat meat, or I'm only going to eat bananas, or to me it's my perspective is balance is good, but if it works for you, it works for you. So
no, I'm with you.
Everyone's different.
Absolutely. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people try to push whatever it is they're doing. It's almost like when you start
this
something
is the
new.
only way.
Yeah. I think that's natural though, because you start something new and you're like, oh well, everyone should be doing this.
Right. And there's so many different, if your goal is to cut fat or lose weight, fasting can help. But that might not work for somebody who tends to be hypoglycemic or who has blood sugar issues. Your blood sugar could get really, really low if you're not eating for that long.
And that's a bad thing.
Yeah. Low blood sugar.
Oh, I don't know. Again, I'm trying.
You can get shaky and difficulty focusing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, with the whole fasting thing, I'm with you. I know it's, again, subjective to everyone. But to your point, I've read a couple of things about it. I heard, offhanded anecdotal evidence from doctors and people that just have done it. Yeah. And to your point, it being restorative, that's the biggest thing for me.
Right.
There was a doctor guy that I was listening to, and he's like, it's not the goal in life to who can use the restroom the most. You know what I mean? And in his estimation is like, well, the more you do that, the more you're breaking down your body, because it's going through these processes that, naturally it may not have to do 3-4 times a day through eating. Yeah. And then another thing is, once you restrict that eating window, or even have, like, some guys do just one meal a day, and that makes it so the insulin spike gets smaller and smaller and smaller over time. And I don't know, man. Again, anecdotally, some people have said it's miracles, but it's the same thing with the carnivore diet.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It's weird. But what do? You think
as
it's
far as
balance?
well, me personally, as far as my eating.
Sure.
So I try to stay really hydrated.
Okay.
I drink a lot of alkaline water. A high pH, and again, lots of different studies, can help detoxify your cells. I mean, we all know, I think everybody, it's a rule across the board, hydrating is good.
Water's
There's
good.
no disagreement there. Sure. Water's good. So I drink a lot of water.
Okay.
I do take supplements that are whole foods based with no fillers, no extra stuff in there.
Sure.
But I try to get most of my nutrients from whole foods,
Gotcha.
nutrient dense foods. So, in the morning I'll have 1 cup of coffee, which I make with alkaline water. So the acidity isn't super acidic. Caffeine's sort of my one vice. And
You gotta have something.
I'll have a little bit of egg, maybe scrambled coconut oil or oatmeal, organic oatmeal, something
nice.
like that.
Okay.
Low sugar, and then throughout the day I eat salads, lots of leafy greens.
Sure.
And I'll eat lean meats like organic chicken or salmon.
Yeah.
But yeah, I eat a lot of I just eat when I'm hungry. Sometimes I'll have nuts as snacks throughout the day so my blood sugar doesn't get low.
Sure.
And it also depends on, I exercise a little every day. Sometimes I exercise more and naturally I get hungrier. So
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, I don't eat regularly scheduled meals. I eat when I'm hungry. And
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's kind of my general rule of thumb. That
and it's
works
working for
me.
you. You look great. Come on.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you have to find your own way and feel what works for you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's important. That's tough. The tough part of getting into it for me was cutting out Cokes.
Oh yeah, Coke.
Yeah.
I'm not a fan.
It's the hardest thing because I think it's the easiest way to get something.
Yeah, but over time, high fructose corn syrup, I think that is also another general rule across the board.
It's a no-no.
It is bad. Mm-hmm. It's like cancer in your body. So I would recommend anyone avoid high fructose corn syrup, avoid refined sugar, and fried food. Mm-hmm. Fried food in general.
Just in general.
The more raw, if you're willing to eat some raw foods, raw produce, that's where you're going to get the most nutrients. Because when you're heating up food, it can kill a lot of the nutrients. Not all the nutrients, but some. So.
That's interesting. So you're saying, because right now, you can give me some advice. How about that?
Yeah.
So what would you suggest I do? Because I'm trying to both lose weight, build muscle, and try to get on something where it's a little easier for me. I have something cheaty to look forward to.
Yeah.
But
and that's good. Yeah.
But at the same time, make it so it's not such a, I don't know, maybe such a feast there at the end. Because I won't limit myself at all on the weekends.
So what is your favorite cheat meal?
My favorite.
Just for taste, not nutrition, not worrying about, just for taste. Okay, what do you like?
I'm going to tell you. I hope you're ready. Because, man, sometimes this is all I'll eat that day.
Okay.
So tomorrow, I'm really looking forward to it because every Sunday there's a badass place near here in Buford called the Bacon Grounds. Shout out to the Bacon Grounds. They make the best breakfast. So what I get is a bacon, egg, and cheese croissant, and it's huge. And they really lay it on, right? And then hash browns with bacon and cheese in them. And then an order of 3 stacked pancakes. And their pancakes aren't no joke, but they're chocolate chip. And I'll have extra syrup.
Okay.
So I'll pour one thing of syrup and they'll be like, you know what? Maybe I should dip them too.
Okay.
And then I'll have ketchup, no high fructose corn syrup. It's like a Whole30 kind of ketchup type of thing.
Oh, well, that's good.
And
lesser of the evils.
Right. And then I'll have a venti iced caramel macchiato.
Oh, wow. Okay. There you go.
Yeah. And that's usually my meal for the day.
Okay.
And I'll eat that slow within the span of 3 hours. And maybe later I'll have something else. But strictly speaking, I don't drink any more Cokes. And when I do drink my calories, it's usually 1 or 2 times a week during the weekend.
Yeah. So your favorite cheat meal, just for, taste, not worrying about nutrition, you said scrambled eggs.
Yes, egg bacon. Cheese. A croissant.
And then a croissant.
Yeah, hash browns.
And
And then pancakes.
Okay.
Chocolate chip pancake.
Chocolate chip, right. Okay, so
Syrup.
if that's like your favorite, cheat meal, there's a way of making that yourself and make it just a little healthier, a little bit more of an upgrade.
Okay.
So one of the things I'm working on is a Healthy Lifestyles YouTube channel where I talk
Awesome.
about, there are going to be yoga tutorials and also like healthy recipes.
Okay.
So, so you can take that meal that you have. So for instance, pancakes. Use coconut oil when you're frying eggs. Like if you're scrambling eggs, I would recommend coconut oil. It's the type of fat in the coconut oil. It's great for fat frying and antibacterial. It's just the best oil, my favorite oil, to make it a little bit healthier than other oils. So use coconut oil, organic eggs, and then you can prepare the eggs however you want to. Maybe add sea salt.
Okay.
A little bit of black pepper.
Not kosher, because I use Himalayan or kosher.
Himalayan's good, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Himalayan is sea salt.
Okay.
Pink salt, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's got trace minerals.
Well, yeah, I put that in my water.
Yeah,
I'll have that, because they say it's better than just regular water.
Yeah,
after
trace
like
minerals.
a workout or something. Yeah.
Definitely. Well, it helps your body absorb. It's super hydrating, right? And trace minerals are good for you in general. So then, instead of taking like pork bacon, maybe turkey bacon.
Is that because of the fat?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also the acidity, and the inflammation or whatever. But, just a little less fat.
So the fat in your estimation is what's bad about the bacon. Because in keto, that's kind of what they live off of. They'll replace carbohydrates with fat.
But you can have healthier fat. Like for instance, coconut oil is a healthier fat.
Okay.
It's good for your thyroid. And you can, do your own research about this. Like I said, there's a lot of conflicting information, but pork, I would say, based on my knowledge, is pork bacon isn't as healthy as like a leaner kind of meat.
Gotcha.
But if you want the pork bacon, keep the pork bacon.
No, it's curious.
And just add, instead of adding like refined sugar, maybe add like brown sugar or organic cane sugar or coconut sugar. Just, little things like that.
Like the pancakes, you mean?
Yeah. You can get like organic honey or organic maple.
Dude, that's what I put in my shakes.
Yeah.
I'll have oat milk.
Yeah. Oat milk's great. I love oat milk.
Low-fat oat milk, ice, a plant-based protein.
Yeah.
For the powder. Then a ton of turmeric.
Turmeric is amazing. I was about to say, like, if you like turmeric, you can put that. I've been making these turmeric anti-inflammatory eggs because turmeric is a great anti-inflammatory spice. And so if you take turmeric and a little black pepper, then you're getting some anti-inflammatory benefits right there.
Okay.
So you can add that to your eggs and see how that tastes.
I'm going to have to try that because that's why I got into the kick in the first place.
Yeah.
Because like 3 years ago, for myself, both physically, mentally, shit just hit the fan. And I was trying to clean up my act.
Yeah.
Personally, career-wise, food, everything.
Yeah.
And I've always had issues growing up with heartburn. And for the most part, I've had a really shitty diet.
Yeah.
And it went to the point where I had anxiety and depression and all this over the span of years of, all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But then when I tried to clean up my diet, slowly it get better. But last year, especially, I got into, trying to find exactly what my triggers were.
Yeah.
Because I had like an endoscopy and they're like, you're good, you're clean, but you have like a very mild form of Barrett's esophagus. So nothing's precancerous or anything. It's
That's
just
good.
there's some scarring over years.
Yeah.
But pretty minor than what it could have been because I was a little worried about it.
Yeah.
But so now adding a ton of turmeric, they said ginger is a good one. So that's what I put in those shakes too.
That's great. Yeah.
And then honey, organic honey, local.
Local honey is good. And if you can afford Manuka honey, Trader Joe's has the most affordable. It's from New Zealand. Manuka honey has medicinal properties. They have bioactive properties that are good for any type of virus and any type of bacteria. Manuka honey, you want to make sure you don't expose it to light or heat because that can change the properties.
Wow. So you don't suggest putting it like in a, Chelsea Horton?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she turned me on to moon milk.
Moon milk. Okay,
Yeah.
this I haven't heard about.
Ooh, it's so good though.
Moon milk?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's basically just like I take a saucepan, right? I'll warm up oat milk, almond milk, whatever kind of nut milk or whatever.
Yeah.
And then ton of turmeric, ginger, cinnamon.
Cinnamon's also a really good
So good.
antioxidant.
Yeah. And then she suggested, I used regular honey, but she suggested using Manuka honey.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize heating it up would change.
It changed the
things.
properties.
Like the way it's broken down in the body.
And if turmeric or if honey gets too hot, it can almost become toxic.
Is that right? Wow,
Yeah. So I would recommend, not exposing it to heat
or light.
Yeah. If you want to put it in your shakes, just make them, cold.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I do.
Or if it's a little bit warm, that's one thing. But if it's like hot coffee I would recommend not.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would have never guessed. It's wild, man, the way food can react. Because they say
Heat changes a lot about the food.
totally, and then cooling it down.
Yeah.
Like her with potatoes, it lowers the glycemic index if you boil them or roast them, but then you let them get cold.
Yeah.
And the more you do that, the less of an insulin spike it would cause in your body.
That's right. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What's that about?
No, it's so interesting. But I'm fascinated by the science behind food and nutrition, how it affects the body. And so I'm always trying to keep up on the latest research.
Cool. So, I mean, is that something you've always been into?
Yeah. So, I grew up as a dancer.
No way. Whoa.
I started taking ballet and tap when I was 3 years old.
Oh, wow.
So
from the start.
Yeah. So I, as a dancer, you always want to like take care of your body. So I was always interested in nutrition, even at a very young age.
Wow.
And so it's always been kind of a part of my life. It's trying to be. But the thing is, when I was that little, everything was about fat grams. And so, I was misinformed, right? I was also young and naive.
Aren't we all?
So when I was like that age, everything was about, it's okay if it has 80 grams of sugar, but it's low fat. It's all about what's low fat, zero fat, no fat. That was like the trend when I was like a kid dancer.
Well, absolutely. That was everyone.
I didn't even think about sugar, right?
Yeah.
And so, we're always learning new things. And we think we figured it out, and then by the way,
always something.
Aspartame is actually bad for
Terrible.
you. It leads to osteoporosis.
Sure. No,
Don't drink Diet Coke with aspartame.
Yeah. It's crazy. Some of the new findings they're findings.
Yeah, discoveries.
It's crazy because like one of the biggest things I wanted to get in with fasting was it not only like for me because of the digestion issues, it just gives my body time just to relax, and to your point, I find that when I work out in a fasted, especially if I do have a heavier meal like earlier the previous day, like around lunch or later lunch, man, energy and endurance off the charts.
That's great.
Easily.
That's awesome.
It's pretty crazy. But, if you have it a little too early for me, it's like, that run is killing me.
Yeah.
But you focus on yoga.
Yes.
So you're more, okay. Is that just your preference? Versus like hard cardio or weightlifting?
So it's interesting. Growing up, I had sort of body image issues. As a dancer, there's this pressure to look a certain way and like look perfect in a leotard and all that stuff.
Sure.
So I would work out probably a little excessively.
Okay.
And so when I was younger, I overexerted myself, wasn't getting enough rest, and I learned from my mistakes, right? And so I used to work out at the gym all the time, like lifting weights, doing lots and lots of cardio. And I also grew up with asthma.
Wow.
Like I was born with asthma.
Sure.
And I kind of learned how to heal myself naturally. I don't take any nebulizers or any steroids or anything more for asthma because I just eat an anti-inflammatory diet, and asthma is an inflammatory issue.
Got you.
So, but I digress. Long story short, I used to work out a lot at the gym and do a lot of like cardio and whatnot. And then since I got more into yoga, I realized through yoga, breathing techniques, what happens is if you're overexerting yourself, you're actually putting more stress on your body. And when your body's stressed, your cortisol levels rise. And when your cortisol level rise, you're training your body to store fat. So you could be, you know, if you're not getting enough rest and you're stressed and you're actually overdoing it at the gym, you're putting more stress on your body, which your body's like, I need to store more fat because your cortisol levels are so high.
Gotcha.
And what yoga is good for, so through like calming the nervous system, doing things like ujjayi breath and just slow and deep breathing, you can activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and restorative mode, and lower your cortisol levels naturally. So your body isn't wanting to store fat. And you're not stressing yourself by overdoing it at the gym.
You mean mentally or physically?
Physically
Even
and
both?
mentally, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I learned that yoga is great for me in that way. And then I got my certification to teach yoga. But yeah, I mean, the main thing that turned me on to yoga was the stress release. Stress is one of the leading causes of all diseases.
Oh, man.
And when your body's stressed, and it's the mind-body connection, you ask mentally or physically, it's all connected.
Absolutely.
When you have any type of like mental stress, it's going to affect your physical body. You hold that stress, it can raise your cortisol levels. And so you're putting your body in a condition to store fat.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, so yoga helped me a lot, just manage stress and calm. And so I wanted to share that with other people. It also helped me as a performing artist because as an actor, you know, every job is stressful, but an actor has their unique stresses.
No, absolutely. I mean, I want to get into it.
Yeah.
I had Adele here a couple weeks back.
Oh, great. Okay.
And we talked about it a fair bit. So, I mean, you say that it's all connected for you, yeah?
Yeah.
Your yoga, the stress management, that helps you acting. Is that, do you mean like keeping your mind clear? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I actually used to teach a yoga for actors at the Robert Mello studio for a couple years. That was really fun.
Wow.
Where I talked about the parallels of yoga and acting. So yoga principles are all about grounding yourself in the present moment.
Okay.
So you're letting go of the past, letting go of the future, and just grounding yourself in what you're doing on the mat. And you can carry that centeredness into your work as an actor, grounding yourself in the present, grounding yourself in those circumstances. So there's a lot of parallels between yoga and acting, connecting with your breath, that whole mind-body connection that you cultivate in yoga practice. You can carry that into your acting work.
Wow.
So
okay. So are there roles that you lean towards?
Roles?
Yeah. Or characters?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, what if the character calls it for high stress? You know, they're a stressed individual.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then you can change your breath in that way to get yourself into that stressful state.
Hyped up, yeah.
Yeah. And so, but the good thing about yoga helps me unwind after a stressful character. You know, if I have to play a very emotionally taxing character going through a lot of emotional turmoil, yoga can help you unwind after that and come back to your center, come back to your, But the roles I gravitate towards are just any type of roles that are complex.
Okay.
You know, that have layers.
Sure.
Not one-dimensional.
Right. That's tough.
Right.
That's tough because, I mean, a lot of writing nowadays, it's tough to get things that aren't so flat.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love playing roles that are different from me personally, that are different from my outlook, different perspectives. And
I see.
Because it's more of a challenge.
Sure.
And I love playing crazy roles, roles that are really far from who I am and how I operate in life.
Sure.
And I feel like, you know, as an actor, you kind of cultivate that sense of fluidity and adaptability in your personality. And yoga can also help you cultivate that sense of fluidity and going with the flow in life, but also in your art.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, I love playing roles that are different from me. You know, I'm with myself all the time, 24/7. I get bored with myself. So I like to like see what it's like in someone else's skin.
Right.
Different perspective.
Okay.
And it helps me become even more empathetic.
Right. No, I mean, that's the biggest draw for me, to be honest, to acting, because I've been on the other side of the camera for years.
Right.
Like 10 years.
Yeah. 10 years?
About that, yeah.
Wow.
Okay. Been doing this kind of stuff for 10 years, like directing, writing, well, more so now.
Yeah.
But when I started it was like I got into school as a musician and was a showman, like went crazy all through middle and high school, you know. And then when I went to college, I was like, well, I want to be a studio musician, but it'd be good to know about the technology it takes to record those musicians. Because then I can just do my own stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
But I got in there and I realized that industry is hard. Not only to find jobs, but it's kind of, ever since then, I was like, well, I want to tell stories. Maybe I'll do it through music. Maybe I'll help other people with their stories in production. And so as I started to go into college to the Art Institute, I was like, well, my first year, I'm going to work every year. I'm going to have a job in the industry. And it was tough to get internships. I ended up getting 3. And I gave myself a rule: always have it paid, because you know, experience is going to kill you. It's true.
Right. No, that's true.
Yeah. And then I found it easier, and people seemed to react more to students that had video work. And I was like, there was this one guy who put a little short together everyone was raving about. And I watched it and I was like, come on. Could be a little better. Let's calm it down. And then I was like, well, what if I try it?
Yeah.
So I went out and I bought, way too much equipment. Way too much.
Yeah.
And started doing it myself, and I found that it was easier to get work through a visual medium. But I took what I learned through audio, and I felt like my work was able to stand out because of that.
Yeah.
And I ended up graduating and did some writing, and everything like that. Now I'm in advertising.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of, to your point, stepping into other people's shoes. And most of the people that I admire from a writing perspective and, from film, even in video games, a lot of them have backgrounds in acting or they're acting in their own stuff.
Yeah.
And that's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
But, man, it's so hard.
I know it's a tough industry, but I always say, if it was easy, everyone would do it.
Absolutely.
The hard is what makes it great.
Yeah. I'm with you. And right now is the best time because, look, all this technology, it's easier now to get content made, get it out there.
Yeah. And like you were saying, making your own content. And that's one thing I've been dabbling in a lot lately.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about Atlanta is there's so many amazing artists, actors, performers that are making their own work.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of like blending of like, actors becoming writers, actors becoming producers, and vice versa, and people behind the camera getting in front of the camera. And I love that. People are multi-talented here in Atlanta.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been working on some of my own projects, and I've really enjoyed writing and producing, and
awesome.
Very low scale, but it's really fun, and it's just great to see because as an actor, you're helping to tell someone else's story.
Sure.
But as a writer, it's your own story.
Oh, man.
It's your own message.
Yeah.
So that it's so fun to see that come to life.
Absolutely. And so your messages, you saying with your channel.
Yeah.
What do you want to try to say? So I'm on the internet, I'm typing, and I see your channel. Oh, what's this about?
Yeah.
High level, what do you want?
Well, so my channel, I'm creating a healthy lifestyles YouTube channel with yoga tutorials and healthy recipes. And that is called Yoga Flow with Kim right now. But I'm working on creating a lot of the content and releasing stuff. I haven't released a whole lot yet.
Gotcha.
And then I'm also working on, short films.
Okay. That you're writing.
That I'm collaborating. I'm writing with other people.
Okay.
And with my little group, my partners in crime, there
you go.
We've created and produced some short films.
I've seen a couple.
A couple of them I think I might have sent you. Some of them are just I think I sent you some really silly ones with just our cell phones. We've like upgraded a little bit from all that, but
sure.
But yeah, you know, I'm learning more about behind the camera stuff a little bit as well.
Yeah.
But my message, to answer your question, so even in, you know, my short films, I want there to be some type of positive message.
Gotcha.
I'm really stubborn about that.
Absolutely.
Even when I'm doing like comedy or horror, like when I'm collaborating with other writers, I'm very stubborn. I was like, I want there to be some type of positive message.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because I want it to be, you know, even if it's a dark comedy, I feel comedy is the best source of medicine in so many ways.
Absolutely.
When you can laugh at the foibles of humanity and
though,
laugh at yourself.
Yeah, we have quite a few.
yeah. But I feel like laughter is healing in so many ways. So I love comedy. But I also love, you know, provoking thought about, you know, the deeper philosophical questions about life and art and why we're here. And so,
no, I'm with you.
So it's hard to narrow down just one message with all of that.
Sure. Yeah.
But,
absolutely.
But I guess, you know, keep thinking, keep questioning, and keep growing and learning.
Okay.
You know.
So your shorts and your recipes, your yoga, all that will live in that one channel, yeah?
No.
You split them up?
Yeah. I'll have my healthy lifestyles channel will just be yoga tutorials and recipes.
Gotcha.
The short films, I released a couple of them on my personal YouTube channel, but then those are private for now because we're submitting them to film festivals.
Sure.
I'm working on one right now called Rebel Boudoir.
Ooh.
And
boudoir.
Yeah. Are you familiar with boudoir photography at all?
Like you mean like classy, like
yeah,
uber dressed up, dolled up, right?
Classy sensuality.
I love that stuff.
Erotic, yeah. So
Santos scoop.
So yeah, so the film's called Rebel Boudoir, and so boudoir photography originated in France, and originally it was just about capturing a female in her private room, so private moment where she can drop the facade and either grieve or be quiet. It wasn't necessarily about lingerie, and that is it's evolved here in the West, modern day boudoir photography. Girls tend to get, you know, photographs of themselves looking sexy, looking hot, and they you know, give them to their boyfriends for Valentine's Day.
Super American.
Yeah, exactly. So in this short we're making, I won't go into the whole thing, but essentially, so I'll be playing a character whose boyfriend is trying to spice up their romance by buying a couple's boudoir session.
Okay.
But he's like, this is a gift for you for Valentine's Day, when really it's for him.
Sure.
Because she's like, and she's also an art appraiser, and she's looking at these photos, and she's like, this just looks like soft porn.
Sure.
There's nothing deeper. It's one-dimensional, lame. There's nothing imaginative. There's no deeper meaning other than like soft porn.
Sure.
And so she's not really into that. But he convinces her to give it a try, and throughout the process, it goes back to body image.
Okay.
And like I told you, growing up, you know, as a dancer, I actually had, you know, I struggled with some body image issues and self-esteem issues because of stuff like that.
Sure.
And so this project really speaks to people who, and we all, I think it's human to like be our own self-critic.
Absolutely.
And be super self-critical. And especially as artists and performers, like, or, you know, in front of the camera, there's this pressure to look a certain way for a certain character. So, you know, we think we have flaws, like physical flaws, like these one things that we think are just awful, right? So each of these characters, they have this one flaw that they are insecure about. And to them, they think it's like really bad. But through this photography session, it actually becomes a little transformative and empowering, and they overcome their silly little insecurities about their physical flaws. And so it becomes more than just,
Sure. Just sexy.
Yeah. But it's
yeah.
also funny and silly.
That sounds awesome.
So
I love that.
Be on the lookout for that.
Will do. So is it like long form or like 2-3 minutes?
It's a short film.
Okay.
So, but it's not super short.
Gotcha.
It'll probably end up being anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes.
That's nice. It's a good length.
Yeah.
It's like a pilot.
Yeah. We'll release it around Valentine's Day.
Oh, I love that. Look at that.
So it's all about, love yourself, love your flaw. You don't actually it's to be a little flawed is to be human. And those are unique things that could actually be beautiful to people.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. To your point, we are our own worst critic.
Yeah.
And you know what you hate about yourself or what you really aren't a fan of.
Yeah.
Other people be like, damn.
Right.
I love that.
Right. That makes you unique, and your uniqueness is often what makes you beautiful.
Absolutely.
So
that's a positive message. I like
physically
that.
and mentally.
Right. That's awesome.
So.
I mean, to your point, comedy can definitely help with all of that stuff. It's just so hard to write, though.
Yeah, comedy's hard to write for sure.
I was watching. So I've been doing a lot of studying, writing wise, and so I'll watch and play things that I really loved for reasons I don't know.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to break them down using like techniques I found with other people breaking them down themselves.
Yeah.
There's an artist that breaks down Matt Hill or Mike Hill. Breaks down a couple of really big movies, and contrasts those films to now. So they're mainly older, and contrasts them to now, and kind of isolates the biggest differences, and how Hollywood blockbusters are kind of vapid in comparison lately. But yeah, it's tough to fit in so much meaning into something that's so short form. So I was watching the movie Click yesterday.
Oh, I've seen
Adam
that.
Sandler.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
It's probably one of his better ones writing wise. And so I was trying to break it apart because all of his movies are pretty templated. I think for 10 years he made so many.
Yeah.
And they're all basically the same kind of story.
Yeah.
But that to me was the one that almost like clicked all these really nice boxes all together. And so I was trying to break that down, and it's all about family and taking taking things for granted. And that was a big thing with the whole movie. And
that was sort of the theme.
Oh yeah.
Taking things for granted.
Absolutely.
So easy to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Or not being able to see things that are right in front of you.
Yeah.
And they show, so what I think is good in filmmaking is when you show and you don't tell. And that's tough to do, but I remember a scene that was so vivid to me, and it was simple.
Yeah.
Because they kind of lay out this whole theme in the first 20 minutes, and then he comes back home after getting the controller, right? And he walks in, and he's in his kitchen, and he sees this table, and there's 3 things on the table. So there's a bowl of fruit, super healthy, whole foods, and then there's 2 boxes of Twinkies, and I think like Yodels or something like that.
Okay.
And so he walks in, passes the fruit, and says, don't get a Twinkie. I will get a Yodel though. And then he walks off, and I'm like, dude, that's the movie.
That's great.
That's the whole thing, because he bypasses what's good for him right in front of him for what he wants. He denies himself what he wants and has what he wants anyway.
Yeah.
And that's the whole film right there.
And there's so much meaning jam-packed into that one moment.
Right.
For instance, sacrificing what we want long-term for something that's just pleasing temporarily.
Absolutely.
And that's the source of so much unhappiness, is sacrificing something that would make us happy long-term for something that's just instant gratification, right?
Sure.
That's, profound right there in that one little moment.
And I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And the inner dialogue, which is so relatable.
Totally.
And
absolutely.
I feel like any type of universal truth is worth writing and worth producing.
Absolutely.
That could speak to any human.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I find in my writing is I'm trying to cultivate my formula.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And a lot of my stuff is long form.
Yeah.
And I don't really worry about timing so much, but I like to follow little rules. So I like 3-act structure, but now I'm trying to be like, no, I want 5.
Yeah.
And I found The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. You've seen the new one?
I haven't seen the new one. I saw the old one.
The old one still does.
original.
Yeah. But in the new one, David Fincher, Aaron Sorkin, I think that's the writer, he did it in a 5-act story structure, but each act has everything you would find in a whole story. So there's a protagonist, an antagonist, an inciting incident, something that challenges the protagonist. And it doesn't have to be a bad guy. It can just be a situation.
Yeah.
And then the opportunity to then either accept or deny what's going on there. And then there's a resolution. So it has everything you need in a single story in each act.
Yeah.
And that's so crazy. So in breaking it down, I found a YouTuber that did it. And I think that's what I want to do my formula when it comes to plot. But on top of that, to your point, thematic, adding that in there, like that, making those themes why people act the way they do. And then in those actions, it moves the story along. So difficult to do.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like a whole, formula, a whole story in each act.
Each act,
Each
So
act
you
is
could
like one whole
absolutely
rising action, climax, falling, all those little things.
all of them
in one act. And
Yes.
then it's but
And
the whole thing's still one long story.
right.
Okay.
And so at the end of every act, that infers the next act to go in.
Yeah.
So whatever that climax is the inciting incident to the next.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah.
Super cool.
Okay.
But
see, I love anything like that deviates from the predictable, formulaic.
absolutely.
And that's the hard thing with movie making these days. It's original content.
It's
deviating
tough.
from the formula, because the formula works. The formula is a formula for me. It works, but then for me personally, I get bored. I get some movies are predictable. It's like, I've seen this plot. I
Right.
know what's gonna happen.
Yes.
So something like that I find really interesting, when you can find a way to deviate from the formula or expand
Yeah.
and make it your own.
Do the unpredictable.
Unpredictable. Yeah.
That's the tough part.
That's tough.
Yeah. And then it's daring too, because I like to put myself in my work so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but like they're really intimate issues. Yeah, and I'm like, I don't know if I want to write about this.
Right, because it's vulnerable.
It's vulnerable.
It's like, this is something really big. I feel like that's the best art.
Absolutely.
And when you are vulnerable like that, it's what's going to reach and hit people and on a deep kind of level. So I think that's important, to be vulnerable, and you have to be in this field.
No, absolutely. But that leads to the last thing, where it's like, whenever I create something, that's why I haven't really done much of anything narrative.
Yeah.
It's because as I'm writing them, by the end of it, I want to leave it on the audience to kind of draw their own conclusions.
That's great. Yeah.
But man, that's a tough ask.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. So some of my favorite stories aren't really dogmatic.
Okay.
Like, they're not basically saying, like, teaching a lesson or saying this is how the world should be, this is how you should think. Like you said, they're put on the audience, so the audience is left to wonder, question something about themselves.
Absolutely.
Or they're thought provoking, and it's more of like to stimulate conversation versus being like dogmatic and
right.
So I think that's really cool that you're you like that, like putting it on the audience.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
It's all like a big puzzle too.
Right.
Yeah. Those are the kind of stories I really gravitate toward.
Me too.
Yeah. Did you watch a lot of movies last year?
I don't know what you would consider a lot, but I did see. Oh my gosh. So I just saw Parasite.
Is that good?
And
I haven't seen it yet.
I didn't see all of the Golden Globes. I did see Ricky Gervais' speech, which I thought was hilarious.
Awesome.
And I think anybody who got triggered by that got triggered because they know that he had a point.
Absolutely. He was right.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, the celebrities that got triggered, I feel like they probably know he has a little bit of a point there.
Absolutely.
But anyway, Parasite got nominated for all these things. So I saw it recently, and that was an amazing film, I have to say. I would totally recommend it.
I have to see it.
It's talking about breaking formulas. It's almost like it switches genres.
Really?
It starts off, you think it's like a comedy, sort of a social commentary, but also mostly like a comedy. And then all of a sudden, funny, silly, and then bam, shit gets real.
Really?
And it makes the violence that much more impactful and powerful because it's so unexpected. And it becomes dramatic so quickly, and the acting is amazing.
I love that director too.
And the social commentary is so poignant right now as far as like the class distinctions, and it's so artfully and beautifully done. I would recommend it. Parasite, go see it.
Will do. All right, Kimberly's recommendations.
Yeah,
I'm all about that, man. That's one I really wanted to see before they announced whoever got nominated for the Oscars. I try to follow it every year and then pretend I didn't.
Yeah, I mean the Oscars, like I feel like a lot of it's just smoke and mirrors, and it's
a popularity contest.
It's politics, and it's also just advertising.
Absolutely.
It's just to advertise.
It is
the movie business.
No, absolutely. But one thing I do like about it is whenever because I'll watch a lot of movies. Like I try to keep up with the ones that I really want to see every month.
Yeah.
And sometimes I make it, sometimes I don't. But last year I missed Parasite, but I did watch Knives Out.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Oh my God, so good.
You liked it, yeah.
Oh yeah,
I
loved
liked it too.
Yeah,
yeah.
That writer, Ryan Johnson, writer director.
Yeah,
he's on point, man.
Yeah, and even when it got a little far fetched, you're still on board.
Sure. Well, that's the genre.
It hooks you. Yeah. So it was really great.
That was a good one. Did you watch Midsommar?
I did.
What did you think? Dish girl.
So that genre is my least favorite. I like movies that leave a positive message and are inspiring and enlightening. Uplifting.
And then you have Midsommar.
So hard. But I don't want to be, I always want to give something a chance. And, I got all this attention. And so I went to go see it. Okay. And
in theaters?
Yes. And it was very disturbing to me.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, I understand, like artfully, like cinematically, like the technical elements. It was so beautifully shot, and I appreciate all the symbolism, and I appreciate the artistic aesthetic, and then I also saw like The Wicker Man, and I know it's sort of like
with Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, and it's kind of like pays tribute to that. Yeah. I saw like that version, but I also saw the original Wicker Man.
Oh, absolutely. And that was a good film.
So what I appreciate about the original Wicker Man is it actually touches on real beliefs based on real pagan rituals. Versus like Midsommar, it didn't really touch on like real pagan rituals.
Right.
It was like an exaggerated,
right. It was all to benefit what that theme was.
Yeah. And for people who like that theme, they will love the movie for sure.
No, I mean, to your point, that's one thing I love, because like you, I love a good, uplifting, positive story.
Yeah.
I do. It's something that just tugs on me.
Yeah.
Like, Home. You ever watched that one?
No, I haven't seen that one.
Oh no. Man, it's like that's probably the most positive you could be. It tugs on my heartstring. Like Moana, same way.
Oh yeah.
Like any kind of animated movie,
yeah.
especially if it's well written.
Yeah.
Will really get me going. But then you have like Midsommar, and that director did the year before Hereditary.
Did
you watch that?
I didn't see Hereditary, no.
Well, if you do watch it, then you can see it's almost like it gives context to why this director-writer chooses those themes, because they're the same.
Yeah.
They're all about mental health.
Yeah.
Religious themes, almost cultish.
Yeah.
And then drugs. That's a
yeah.
Those three are probably the most prominent.
Yeah.
Oh, and prophecy. Cycles.
Yeah.
I love cycles.
Yeah.
And not so much prophecy, I guess, kind of, but cycles is one thing that gets me. But that's something I would say for him it's more fortune tellery, because like from the beginning to the end of both films, you see everything that you see the film in the first few minutes. Yeah. The story's all there.
Yeah, and I do like one of the things I liked about Midsommar is all those crazy rituals and like weird, it does kind of sort of make you examine our life and what kinds of crazy rituals that don't make a whole lot of sense, you know, that are a little culty.
Absolutely.
You know, and so, yeah, I do appreciate, you know, that kind of thing. Like, yeah, some of the things I do are a little culty as well. Like,
Yeah.
So I like that.
Mm-hmm.
But,
how do you feel about the commentary between relationships?
oh, like it was all just like an allegory for like a relationship. You mean like the Midsommar or?
I mean, that's one thing that people brought up the most.
Right.
Yeah. Don't see this with your girlfriend.
Yeah.
Right. That's what they said. And I remember going in and watching it with that kind of mindset, and I could see why people said that.
Yeah.
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 That guy was a dick. I mean, for real.
Yeah, I know. He was like the epitome of just like completely clueless, like
Selfish.
self-centered.
Yes.
Just like,
I mean,
vapid kind of.
Totally. But to be honest, I mean, I want to say the woman was too, a little bit.
You think so?
I think so. I mean,
Well,
she had reason to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I think they both suffered from a little bit of the same.
Self-involvement. Yeah, you know, she was dealing with her own issues. She was very much absorbed in her own drama.
Yeah. I mean, but rightfully so.
But rightfully so, yeah, of course. But yeah, the whole thing just was pretty disturbing to me for the most part.
Yeah.
But it sort of makes you question, why is this disturbing?
Yeah.
You know, why, like anytime you're triggered by something, you should ask, like, is that because it reveals some truth about humanity that you don't want to face? And
Right.
I do appreciate, I love films that are positive and uplifting, but I also like films that are realistic and that expose the dark aspects of humanity as well.
Absolutely.
And then reveal how you can rise above that. So that's what I think it was missing.
You think so?
Well, I mean, like for me personally, that's just my preference. But
no, sure.
I don't, you know, I don't like films that are just like fairy tales. Unrealistic.
Okay.
They don't show both sides of the coin, both the light and shadow. I mean, this is the yogi in me, you know.
Sure.
Nothing's
Balance.
Balance,
Yeah.
right? Like the darker aspects of humanity, and then, but I always like films that have a little more light than dark.
Sure. That's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah. I mean, that's what you gravitate toward.
Right.
Yeah. I like a good blend of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think you can have everything. Like in my favorite movies, it's not afraid to be, you know, pushing boundaries, and questioning, you know, life, beliefs, but at the same time, it being lighthearted. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's fair to have a bit of everything.
A bit of everything.
Yeah.
Those are my favorite movies. Like
Yeah.
a little bit of comic relief here and there. If it's so dark, I'm questioning, what is the point of this movie? Just to depress you? Why would I watch that?
Yeah.
But if it's so like happy fairy tale, it's like, I can't even get on board with this. This isn't realistic, you know?
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a balance.
That's funny you mentioned that, though, because that's something that happened in the first film, Hereditary.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's almost, thinking about it right now, it's almost like they're Greek tragedies.
Yeah.
You know, they're just, it seems like that was one of the questions in the first movie. It's in both of his films thematically, but there's a scene in the first film where, you know, there's like a young kid, a teenage dude, you know, and he's just growing up.
Yeah.
Right. And in the movie, the scene is him, you know, kind of oogling this girl in class, and he likes her a lot, and he's trying to impress her. He's a stoner kid. And in the classroom, the teacher is talking about a Greek tragedy.
Okay.
And, you know, he's asking, and if you listen to what he's saying, he's basically setting up the story. And even, I thought that was really cool because, you know, the story is a downer.
Yeah.
You know, the bad guy wins.
Yeah.
And the hero doesn't.
I know. Yeah.
But that's what they're talking about in the classroom. And one of the girl that he's oogling at asks, I want to say it was her, she asks the teacher, well, if we know in the beginning that the hero will fail, what is the point of the story? And he's like, that's a great question. Who wants to answer that?
Yeah.
You know.
Cautionary tale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or to learn something.
Learn something from their mistakes.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah. It's really cool stuff. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. And I can appreciate, you know, the point of those movies as well. They're just, you know, they're just not my favorite.
Yeah. Well, what was your favorite last year?
Oh, that's hard for me to pick. You're gonna laugh when I say this.
Say it, please.
I really like the Mr. Rogers,
with Tom Hanks.
with Tom Hanks.
Why would I like? That's awesome.
Won't you be my neighbor?
Yeah.
Well, because I think Mr. Rogers is a fascinating person.
Absolutely. That's a story.
And there was always something about him that a lot of people felt was almost unreal because he was so nice. And it makes you be like, he can't be this nice. There's got to be some darkness to him. There's got to be some imperfection. We're human. Like, he can't just be this angel on earth. And so that's sort of like the point, one of the,
the movie.
In the movie, you have this journalist who's determined to figure out that he's not all bells and whistles,
really?
Mr. Rogers. No. And so he's, and it's based on a real story, and anything based on a real story, I have a lot of respect for.
Yeah.
And so, but I just, the way that they made the film almost like a full Mr. Rogers episode, but for adults, I just thought it was really well done. And
wow.
It was uplifting. And
I could tell from the trailer.
Because he was really, that good natured.
Yeah, he was a good guy.
He was a really good guy. And there are people out there that exist that don't have deep, dark secrets. They haven't secretly killed someone. They have,
Yeah.
And so
who of us hasn't killed someone?
So it's, it's life affirming.
Sure.
And he did a great job portraying Mr. Rogers.
Yeah. I mean, Tom Hanks, man. He's so...
Yeah.
I saw a tweet that was really cute where, there's so many stories of him hanging out with people, like getting drunk, going to sleep, and him taking pictures of himself on their phone.
Yeah.
There's all those kind of things. Mm-hmm. And the tweet was like, well, I hope I never meet him, because then the image of him I have in my head will always remain true. Like you hope he's as good-hearted as he portrays himself to be.
Right. And that's sort of what this journalist discovered. Like, okay, he's not a fraud. Like, there's really no difference between how he portrays himself on camera versus who he is in real life.
Yeah.
He was humanitarian. He cared about people, and he cared about making a positive difference.
Yeah.
And then it's also about processing anger and processing pain in a healthy way.
Yeah.
Which is really simple.
How do you mean simple?
Well, I mean, it can be.
Yeah. Like the solutions are usually simple.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this horrible struggle. It doesn't have to be this unattainable. Yeah. You can process your anger in a healthy way, and that's one thing.
Sure.
Mr. Rogers, the real person, did. He didn't go out and steal something or punch somebody or like commit crime or violence. He dealt with his anger in a healthy way by swimming laps, by playing the piano, getting out his aggression on the piano.
Yeah.
So there's just simple practices you can do to process, the darker emotions that aren't destructive.
Right.
And so I like that. I wasn't a psych major. I was a theater and performance studies major, but I was a psych minor. And so I like the psychology behind the film, Won't You Be My Neighbor?
That's dope. I want to see it.
Yeah, you should see it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, you could tell a compelling story, positive or negative, in any sort of context, whether it's, Teletubbies, Mr. Rogers, or like... What I like is sci-fi, like Terminator 2 or stuff like that. It doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah.
You could, if it's made with love and passion, I think that's going to show through.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I appreciate it. I'll have to check it out because that would be honest. Like for me, I love going into things and then having an unexpected reaction. Mm-hmm. So like a few years back, I went to go see Saving Mr. Banks. And Tom Hanks is in that movie too.
Okay, yeah, I didn't see that one, but...
Amazing film. I think it was my favorite movie that year.
Oh, really? Okay.
But I went in wanting to hate it. I was like, I can't stand it. It's just Disney. I'm done with it. And the whole movie is just about them making Mary Poppins.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the hell is this? And so I went to go see it. And by the end of it, I was bawling. I was like, oh, my God. Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was so unexpected.
You didn't expect that type of reaction. You were like, it's going to be lame.
Yeah. Or I think it was around the time where Disney, even now I feel they kind of are going one of two directions with their movies. There's no middle ground, and it's either compelling, beautiful writing. They take 2-3 years to make the film, and it's just bam there, or it's just more cookie cutter, and it's subverting to what culture is, talking about at that one moment. And last year especially, I feel that they were just so unsubtly, pushing a narrative that was very pro-feminism, pro-women, not against any of that for myself. But when, your film is sacrificing good storytelling for just being woke, that's not going to move me in any way. You know what I mean? And that's what I think last year they kind of did it with a couple of movies.
Which movies would you say?
Well, Captain Marvel.
Okay. I didn't see that one.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. It was just another big budget Marvel film. Templated. Beginning to the end, they're really telling you the story rather than showing you. But it's very pro-woman, pro-independence. And again, not against any of those things, but just the way the story is told, you could say that, but still challenge your characters. Yeah. And and Aladdin was the other film.
Oh, I didn't see that one. I didn't hear it was the best.
Well, I would say it wasn't bad, but you can get a more well-rounded story with the original.
Well, wasn't it almost exactly like? Am I wrong? Or I heard it was just like the original.
Well, it
had
was
a little differences. Okay.
It had quite a bit. Like, I'm not a fan of censorship, and they did some censoring because in the original animated film they weren't afraid to be a little sexy,
Yeah.
And the girls in the animated film, they would, like, I think in the number with the genie, the musical number or whatever, they had them dancing and culturally correct.
Yeah.
But
for Arabia.
Yeah. And it was a little cheeky humor, but it was also a little sexy for the adults. Yeah. And then the kids were still entertained.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it didn't distract or, make it so you be, oh man, that was too much.
Yeah.
But with this movie, especially knowing the director, so safe. And they shoehorned in a musical number, which I'll never forget. And they wanted to make this story, the new film, have a big play again on, women and woke and, feminism and all this. And so they made it so Jasmine has a goal.
Yeah.
And her goal in the movie was to become the Sultan, almost like the leader.
Yeah. And
so from the beginning, she is preaching this narrative of like, why can't I be in charge?
Oh, so it's like a very on the nose, like feminist.
So on the nose. So on the nose. So much that
it's like, I get it. You're like hammering it. Okay.
Yeah. And then she has a musical number there that called Speechless. And the whole thing is like, I won't be silenced, by a man. And it's like, it's very obvious what they're trying to say.
Yeah, which I definitely appreciate that. And I think that's a great message, especially for young women and all that.
Totally agree. Not a bad message.
But yeah, it's a great message. But I get what you're saying if it's like...
Yeah, well, my problem with the film is that she didn't earn anything. And it was the same thing with Frozen, too.
I saw Frozen too.
Okay,
yeah.
So Anna and Elsa. Okay, my big problem with that movie was I thought it worked from a writing perspective so well. It was hitting all those beats.
The first one?
Both of them.
Yeah.
But both of them had the same issue. The second one more so because of Anna, right? She states what she wants. We kind of see a little bit of what she wants, but... that's it. That's the whole movie. And by the end of it, she she has a very big fear throughout the whole movie that something bad's going to happen to Elsa. She won't be able to protect her. That's great. I love it. And we see it, with interactions in the first half. Love that. And then near the end, it kind of falls apart because there's this really cute thing that they set up where, what's the guy's name? The love interest.
Sven? No, that's the reindeer.
That's the
Hans?
I think you're right. Hans.
Yeah.
So throughout the whole film, spoiler alert, he's trying to propose.
And then every time he tries something.
Oh,
yeah.
It's so cute, right?
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening in the movie is the last time we see him up until the climax is him giving a song saying that, it's almost like there's no right time.
Yeah.
Right? And then
that 90s looking.
I love that. Yeah, it was so good.
Yeah.
And that's the last time we see him. And then all we see after that is, or from that up until that point, is Anna being distracted by Elsa. Again, putting her mind on other things, but then what's in front of her, what should be important now. And so that message could work if it resolves, but throughout the whole film, she just, it's Elsa, or it's me. And then by the end of it, woe is me. She has a whole musical number. Woe is me. Oh, the world's over. What am I going to do? And then all of a sudden she gets what she wants. Not only that, but she becomes queen. And I'm like, and then at the end, they had this line where she sees Hans again, and she apologizes, and then he's like, oh, it's cool. I'm not that, blah, blah, self-centered, or I'm not that petty. And I'm like, fuck you. Oh my God. Earn it. Because if it was, I'll tell you now, if it was switched and the dude was doing that and the chick would, like if their situations were, it would not have worked. That's a double.
What? What's Disney
double standard.
But I love.
But little girls are watching this.
Right.
They're thinking that's okay. That's not cool.
What did she do again to Hans that wasn't cool?
In my opinion,
she
kept on shunning him, making mistakes that were very self-centered, and then not having any repercussions for them, both in the plot and thematically.
That's interesting because I didn't even look at it that way.
Well, how did you look at it? Maybe it's my problem.
I just look at it as like bad timing. Like every time he'd propose, she wouldn't I didn't look at it as her intentionally shunning him, but like not realizing he was about to propose and just focusing on like the goal at the time, which was, so I didn't look at it as her like intentionally like ignoring him or shoving him.
I didn't either. I don't.
Just like bad timing. Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, there's no repercussions. Like, what lesson does she learn if all she does is woe is me after doing all these mistakes, bad timing? Sure, unintentional.
Yeah.
But where is the growth for these little girls that watch the movie to learn? Oh, you have to be able to appreciate the now rather than the later. And for her, it was always what if something bad happens to Elsa? What if something bad happens to the city that they live in?
That's really interesting how you interpreted it that way. Because for me, because you interpret her song, you're saying the song that she sings after she thinks Elsa is a goner and Olaf's a goner, and she's upset, and then she sings the song like the next right step. So to me, like I interpreted that as like you have to keep moving forward. You have to keep taking the next step. That the next right step for right now, step by step, just keep going, keep taking the next right step. Focus on the now. And so I interpreted that song, not woe is me. It starts out kind of woe is me, but then throughout the end of the song, she's like, it's like she's all like charged up, ready to like, I'm just going to do the right thing. All I can control is what's happening right now. I'm going to take the next right step. And so even though it starts out sort of woe is me, I interpreted that as like a good message. Like,
oh yeah,
she's learning not to get wrapped up in feeling sorry for herself or feeling like, in giving up. She's not giving up.
Sure.
She's moving forward step by step.
All good messages. And,
yeah.
Absolutely. But I guess my biggest issue is that we get told the message rather than shown, and there's nothing in the plot of the story that kind of makes it so she is forced to realize why. It's just a musical number.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to think of an example.
So what would you have liked to have seen happen? Like, if you had rewritten the ending, how would you rewrite it?
I think it's pretty simple. What
would you do?
I think if something were to have happened because of her mistakes, like the ones where, that causes the bad timing because of her fear of Elsa dying or whatever. If because she did those things, C happens. Like, if because of those things she woke those giants, or made it so the giants were heading toward the bridge, or if because of her fears something happens, then she sees and realizes that, oh, because of my fears, these are the consequences. Now I have a reason to learn from my mistakes. You know what I mean? Or if something happened with Hans where, like, I'm not too sure, but if something that actually would have been better if because of her fears, something happened in the plot that was, oh, okay, because of what I did, this happened. And then personally, thematically, something happened between her and Hans where it's like, oh, another reason for me to want to change.
Yeah.
That would have fixed my problem with it. Because right now it just seems like, well, we really need her to have this change within the next 5 minutes. Let's write a song about it.
But that's Disney. They always, right.
Sure. But everything else was so on point.
I'm going to change through the song and transform through this song. So I don't even remember, like, I'm not sure what you mean by mistakes. Like, what mistakes did she make? I only saw it once, so.
No, you're good. It's not really so much mistakes. It was more of her choices moving the story forward. And to be honest, the first half of the movie did it right. I think they set it up really, really well. Yeah. Where it's like, it could have been her movie. I would have seen her as the protagonist. And it would have been great because from the beginning, she's worried about Elsa because something seems to be coming up again, right? And Elsa's doing her own thing. And she's like, well, I'm worried because in the last movie, she left and everything. So she's fearful. That's really good. That's a good setup. She's now a fearful person. And because of that fear, she doesn't see what Hans is bringing to the table. She doesn't see that he wants to propose. But she also doesn't see that Elsa needs to go through her own journey. Yeah. So they set it up really well. Yeah. It's like, oh man, now we have all these complex emotions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so again, like, it goes forward. We learn more about the family. That's really cool. Yeah. It's just the resolution for me was a bit lacking.
I feel you.
That's all.
Yeah. I'm just,
Good movie.
Yeah.
It was good. It was really good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It did well.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely enjoyed it. I would say it was good. Even though I used to do a lot of princess parties for kids, Disney is actually not my favorite. Some people assume that, like, oh, you're a Disney fanatic. I'm like, no, it was just a job.
Yeah.
I used to entertain kids at birthday parties and dress up as all the princesses. And
oh, that's so cute.
I still do that every once in a while. I'll dress up, if I get called from like a friend, and I'll do it. I would do like balloon animals and face painting and.
No way.
Yeah, and I would like dress up as a princess. It's like a glorified clown, but.
But that's awesome.
Yeah, but people assume like, oh, you love Disney. I'm like, I like Disney, but I'm not like. The one thing I do like about Frozen, though, is it deviates from the I'm just a princess who needs a prince to save me.
Totally.
And it's about, love between the sisters. And if anything, it teaches not to trust guys all the time because the one guy was just using her.
Absolutely.
So I love that about the first Frozen.
That's a great message.
This is amazing, because it's different from I'm just a princess needing a prince to save me.
Absolutely. I agree. And I think, again, both of them have good qualities, good messages, things that could probably make some people feel a little uncomfortable, or there's a little bit of everything going on. It's just from the critic in me is like, oh, it's so close.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot more to critique I just hadn't thought a whole lot about Frozen 2 yet.
Yeah. It's a good one. I can't wait I'm going to buy it and watch it again.
What do you think about Elsa's ability to create? I know that's been like things people are talking about. Like, she created life. She created
right.
Like, that's kind of crazy, you know?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, I'm down. I'm down. I think it really works for her as a character.
Yeah.
That she has all this power, but is so insecure.
Right. And it makes sense that she's more of an elemental spirit versus a human creating life.
I love that.
She's not a human with magic who created life. She's actually an elemental spirit.
Okay.
So she's from this other realm, and that's how she was able to create. So I like how they kind of tied that in Frozen 2.
Absolutely. But I have to ask you this question because I have an issue when people project their own wants into characters that in the story don't have any root in what those wants are.
Yeah.
And Elsa was one that has suffered from it from the first film. It seems like the LGBT community want to make her a really standout, prominent character for them.
Yeah, and I read something online about when they saw the trailer, some people were like, "Oh, is Elsa going to be, a lesbian? Is Elsa going to come out?" And there was all this talk, right?
Right.
I saw that and I was like, oh, I hadn't thought of that, but that's interesting.
Honestly, I wouldn't be against it.
Yeah.
And anyone listening, I am not against it. But what I am against, again, is pushing a narrative that isn't subtle or doesn't really benefit the character at all. Or in this case, isn't even hinted at in the films. It's not like they bring it up or anything like that at all in either movie.
No.
So in my mind is just a projection, because from when I watch it, I think she's attractive. I think like all her qualities, independent, strong. I like the vulnerability and then the growth, but I don't see that being anything more than a champion for womanhood versus a LGBTQ positive message. You know what I mean?
Right. And I didn't interpret it that way either. But then when I saw that article, I was like, I can see how people might, but then my question is okay, just because she's single and she's powerful, that doesn't mean she has to be a lesbian.
Right.
Just because you're a little more masculine, that doesn't mean you're a lesbian.
No, not at all.
Women can be powerful and strong without, liking women.
Sure.
So to kind of that must mean that she's going to, I was like, not necessarily, but, we all, men and women, I don't like this idea if you're masculine as a female, that means you're a lesbian. Or if you're feminine as a male, that means you're gay. Right. It's like we all have masculine and feminine energies in us.
Absolutely.
Whether we're male or female.
Yeah.
And I mean...
No, I like that though. I like that. I think that's a positive message in itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, because growing up, it's interesting the whole, all these movements going on now, is... trying to change how fundamentally, and I think it's trying to make the next generation a bit better.
Yeah.
And I sympathize with that. I think it can go a bit extreme a lot of the time. But one thing I think is a positive is being able for men, especially just because I'm a dude. That's all I know. I think, being emotionally involved and letting dudes talk about their emotions, so important, because all my life I wasn't able to. And only recently I found it, okay, through my writing or art,
right,
to be able to be vulnerable in that way. Even here, that's honestly one of the reasons I wanted to do this, was to be able to be open about subjects that I really don't talk to anyone about, especially being emotional, it being okay to feel.
It being socially acceptable for a man to be emotional. That doesn't make him any less manly or any less masculine.
Absolutely.
Whether you're male, female, we all have emotions. And to feel things is to be human. To feel pain, to feel love, to feel touched by something, to cry. That's a human thing.
Sure.
And I think like it actually takes strength for a man. Like I personally am way more attracted to a man who is comfortable showing their emotions, whether that be whatever the emotion is. And not being afraid to like communicate their feelings like constructively.
I mean, dude, that's awesome. Because speaking on that, I mean, like me personally, my relationships have been a bit wafty, and lately I've just been working, like this past year and moving for the immediate future. I'm just working on myself. Like I told everyone around my life, is like, if you want to be in my life, you know, this is kind of where I'm in a very self-care type of thing. I'm going to talk to whoever I want to talk to. Like I'm just being me. And if you want to talk with me or be a part of my life, awesome, but don't try to change who I am, because for the longest time that's kind of the position I was in.
Really?
I mean, from external, a lot of it internal as well. But and I think it's important to be able to be that open. You know, because for the longest time I was not. Talk about stress.
Yeah, and it's very liberating when you do feel, you know, you express something that you might have not, you know, you feel inhibited to express for whatever reason, you know, cultural conditioning. And especially here in the South, there's a lot of cultural conditioning about what it means to be manly and what it means to be feminine. And the lines get blurred, and it doesn't matter. Just be who you are. Be authentic. And if you're authentically expressing anything, that's human. And that's totally okay.
No, absolutely. Even in relationships, I find. Honesty completely, but at the same time being able to be willing to be honest about how you feel about certain subjects, or how you feel in general on a daily basis, or whatever ends up happening. I think it's fair to speak about. Even if it can be a little scary.
Absolutely. Because
sometimes the truth hurts, though.
It does. But for me, I mean, I would much rather be told the truth and be hurt than be deceived by a lie, because if my happiness is based on a lie, that's not real happiness, because it's based on something that's not real.
Absolutely.
So I would have more respect for someone who told me the truth that hurt versus pretending and hiding and, you know, and I try to uphold the same respect for other people, like, you know, friends that I have. I don't want to just sugarcoat and placate and tell them what they want to hear, because that's not actually kind. I don't think telling someone what they want to hear, if it's not true, I don't think that's a kind thing to do. I think that's not helpful.
No, if you're their friend, I mean, you have to be honest.
And so, I mean, I always feel like just being as authentic as possible. I mean, granted, there's tactful ways to break the heart. If there's like a brutal reality, you have to. There's tactful and a little more, you know, kind of gentle. You can tell them the gentle, harsh reality.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be a complete
No, I agree. You know? I agree. Absolutely. I mean, I'm with you. There's ways to come across, I think, through actions and words positive, you know, even if they're hard truths, because the older I get, man, the more complicated things get. And I'm like, holy shit.
And all this like concern about always worrying about being politically correct all the time. Like, you know, if that's not your truth, then I think that's okay. I think everyone should feel free to speak their truth, as long as it's not, you know, destructive in the sense of like gonna really hurt someone to a degree. You know what I mean? Within reason. Okay.
No, absolutely.
Common sense.
Absolutely. I mean, I'll bring that up because this week has been an interesting week in itself.
Really?
Oh man, like learned so much about myself. It was wild, man. Because like I had for the longest time I had this Twitter, and I've always like held back on saying a few things on there just because it's on there. I got canceled, yo. It was crazy.
What did you do?
I didn't even do anything I thought was crazy. I mean, okay, so basically what happened is this YouTuber, Nikki Tutorial, right, came out as trans.
Okay.
And awesome. Her truth, you know, beautiful. And unfortunately, she came out of it because of blackmail. Like someone had found out and was holding that information hostage for whatever reason. I didn't get too much in the granular details, but that was the situation. And so instead, she made her own video and just came out on her own terms, her own power. Beautiful message, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that all went down. And on Twitter, it was all this positivity, yes, but also people having questions. And I think questions are fair, especially when diving into issues that I would consider new, fresh, and almost intimidating, you know. And so there were a lot of people on her feed asking questions. And I don't know, I don't want to say it's her community because that's being very broad, but there was a select, loud few that were labeling the people that just had questions about the situation as transphobic, you know, toxic stuff. And these guys didn't really do anything but ask questions. And I find it, I hate to be political about it, but I think in essence it's being political, you know, that asking questions means you're being hateful or means you're being transphobic or means this or that negative, you know, offend. You're trying to trigger people.
Right.
So in my mind, I was like, let's be a little lighthearted. Let's just, I want to say a joke.
Yeah.
You know, and if I trigger people, I want them to rather trigger on this tweet than bother other people that just are really just trying to learn more about the situation.
Yeah.
So all I said was, oh, she's a dude, you know.
That's it.
That's it. Oh, she's a dude. Yeah. 4 words.
And then you got all the,
Dude, I got like
It's
some
amazing.
threats. Like people wanted to
But
cut
it's
me
not
up.
like you're saying, it's not like you're saying, oh, gross, she's a dude. Oh, or, oh, and that's amazing. Or, oh, wonderful. You're not saying like you're for or against it. You're just saying,
No.
oh, she's a dude.
Yeah,
Like,
that's all I said.
It's almost like you're accepting it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I thought it would be open enough where people can interpret it whatever they want.
Yeah.
And I think that may have been the issue.
Like, what do you mean? What does this mean? Like,
well, a lot of the stuff that I
Yeah.
got was, you know, telling me to go to hell, you know, saying that they were going to like, you know, cut me up and like just all this negative shit. And a lot of it, I didn't really find any of it bothersome, only a few. And, you know, again, it was me being labeled as transphobic. And I mean, I apologize for offending people. I don't want to offend anyone. But at the same time, I think it's a bit unfair for you just to assume my position on things from 4 little words.
4 little words. And that's what's difficult about these online platforms. You're reading text. You're not listening to a person talk. You can misinterpret things as sarcastic, literal, antagonistic, and you have no idea the intention behind those words.
Absolutely.
People make assumptions. And the thing that's crazy about this whole like social media, it's like this platform where people feel more comfortable expressing themselves because there's like this protective layer of the screen. You're not like live.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, when they're triggered, they feel more comfortable going off.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, how productive is that? How constructive is that? You know, there's a way to invite someone into a conversation and have a conversation. And there's a way to just like, you're wrong, I'm right, you're this, you're that, you know, like.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm not surprised you got all of that after you said that.
Oh, dude.
And you were just trying, what was your intent in writing that?
Honestly, a lot of it was, because I meant it as a joke, you know, because I'm willing to use whoever or whatever pronouns people want to be referred to. But honestly, I kind of want to make a statement as well, because a lot of these people, these poor people were just asking questions and they were, you know, labeled so negatively just for being curious. And I think if I was on the side of the trans movement, not saying I'm not, I'm just, I don't know how I feel about the whole thing. But regardless, if I'm a part of a movement, you would think you would need to be, you know, coming into people open-minded instead of defensive or triggered, just so people can be educated about that movement.
Yeah.
But on the opposite end of that, and what all I saw was, you know, people being attacked for being curious. So in my mind, I just wanted to write something that was open to be interpreted positive or negative, and just let it lie.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. But most of it was negative.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I mean, hell, people can feel about it the way they want. And I want to have someone, you know, either a part of the movement or something like that here, just so we can debate and to see if it's something that's, you know, to see if it's something that is, what's the word I'm looking for? Common.
Okay.
For people to just react that way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
It may be heated, but I think it's okay.
So what do you consider as part of the movement? I mean,
I see.
Like just morally supportive or understanding or.
Well, if that's the standard, then I'm a part of that movement.
Yeah.
But at the same time, personally, I think that, you know, if you're born a certain way, let's say.
Or you're saying only like people who identify with a different, people who are transgender, you're saying those are the only people you consider part of the movement?
No, not at all.
Okay,
I think it, to your point, that's a fair question. It depends. I think people that have made up their mind, if they are, you know, on certain subjects of the movement. I haven't made up my mind yet about it.
Yeah.
So like with me, I can't tell about the movement just because I don't know if it's negative. So let's say I join this movement and it's for the sake of the downtrodden. I'm for that movement because I don't want anyone to get offended or triggered or anything like that. But at the same time, if me joining that movement is unhealthy, I don't want to be a part of it. And that's where I'm a little confused. And that's why I want to have someone on about it. Because for me, I don't know if it's healthy to... I'm going to get screwed up. I don't know if it's healthy to go along with people on you know, on their beliefs about themselves. If it in themselves it's mentally it's coming from a bad mental place. You know, and there's a lot of misinformation about that whole thing in particular. Like, because for me, if like, let's say me, I'm Homero, born a man. I don't know how it feels to have feelings about being born in the wrong body. Yeah. But are those feelings true? Or are those feelings brought on by external factors that make it so mentally it's an illness, or I'm mentally incompetent in this way, where in my mind, I'm only going to be happy if I'm in this body, you know?
So you're just on the fence. Yeah. Because you feel like the verdict's still out on all the research.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I just think there's so much more. We barely scratched the surface on understanding why, you know, the transgender movement is a thing. Yeah. And there's so much we still don't understand. There is a lot of research to scientifically kind of explain why someone might be born certain. I mean, it's you have to be so careful with the words you say now.
I know.
Because like there's a difference between a person's gender and then a person's sex, and then there's, you know, I was actually, where was I going with that? Anyway,
gender and sex.
Yeah, I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, I feel like that we all just need to kind of respect what we don't know about it, and respect people for their own choices, and whether, you know, you decide to be for or against it, respect the difference of opinion, and, you know, just be kind. That's my thing. But going along with what I was saying, there's just so many different like terms that have evolved based on like sexual, you know, there's pansexual. Right. There's it's like, I'm not bisexual, I'm pansexual. And
that's being attracted to neither of the traditional sexes or genders. Is that right? Or, like sexually attracted, is that right?
There's just basically so many different types of ways to identify yourself.
Okay.
As far as like your sexual orientation and then your sexual preference.
Okay.
And it's gotten so like all these, I mean, omnisexual.
What does that mean?
I mean, I can't remember. I mean, I was like doing some research recently, and there's so many terms that I learned that I was like, this is a like,
Wow.
you know, people who are, I can't remember all of them, but
It's so saturated.
but
though.
yeah, it's just, you know, it's kind of like, do
feel-
you even have to have a label? Because sometimes, you know, sometimes it's fluid and things change and how you feel changes, and like label, like all the label, it's like, no, this, I don't quite fit into this label, but I don't quite fit into this label or this, so I'm going to create a new label, but then I don't quite fit into this. So it's like, maybe we should just stop worrying about it.
Sure.
You know?
I think that's fair. I mean, honestly, I'm going through my own renaissance, man. I wouldn't know what label I am right now at all.
But yeah, and
I feel like I'm pretty easy.
yeah, and I just feel like also, you know, it's difficult for me. Like I worry about offending, like you're saying, like offending people, you know, that are changing or identifying in a different way than you thought. You know, you make assumptions, and then so I mean, I think, you know, you have to be careful about offending people, and so many people get so easily offended. But my thing is maybe, you know, if you get offended by someone, instead of attacking back, like you were saying, attacking them, pause, take a breath, and then educate them and say, okay, you're coming at it from a slightly ignorant standpoint, let me explain to you. You know, and approaching it that way, it's like, these people aren't trying to be mean, they're asking questions. Let me just educate. Versus like attacking you and calling you homophobic or transphobic or whatever. I mean, you know, I'm sure there's like tons of different like terms out there that I'm not even totally familiar with. Like I'm globally sexual, and I'm like, what is globally sexual? Oh, you don't know? Well, you're just homophobic or whatever, you know? So
We're going to cancel you.
So yeah, it's this interesting phenomenon that's happening. It's like, you know, it's like, I'm not homosexual, I'm queer, blah, 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 you know, all these different terms, and it's confusing.
I'm confused.
So I don't think it's fair to like lash out at someone for not understanding or not being, you know.
No, absolutely. I think that's fair. And then to your point, if you do feel offended or offensive, because honestly, I was watching a movie. What was it? It was Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
No,
Adam Sandler?
I haven't.
Adam Sandler. Again, full circle, right? So I was watching that movie, and I got bothered by something in that film that almost took me out. And I was like, I'm done.
Yeah.
And it was something that it was nothing. Like, I was just offended. And then I asked myself while watching the movie, it's like, why does that bother me? Oh, it's because I have certain insecurities that makes whatever situation I'm seeing on screen a bit sensitive for me personally.
Exactly. And usually,
And that's okay.
Yeah, and that's okay. Like
Yeah.
usually that's why we're triggered. Like
Right.
most of the time, if something triggers, it triggers an insecurity about
Absolutely.
us. Like, what does this say about me? You're human, I'm human, you're going through this. Does this challenge the way I identify my social constructed self?
Yeah.
So if anything can, you know, once you feel like you're identifying with something, and then someone comes along and challenges you in the way that you've created yourself,
Yeah.
it can be triggering. And I think that's where a
Sure.
lot of the triggering comes from.
Yeah, it's almost that you feel a question or a judgment, even if it's a debate where someone believes differently than you.
Yeah.
You think that belief is attacking yours personally,
Yeah.
you know, or your ideology. That's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. I did a lot of that when I was growing up.
Yeah.
Yeah, my dad was a preacher.
Oh.
For the longest time, I was like, you know, anyone who isn't Christian or blah, blah, blah.
Oh, you were.
Thank God you didn't know me then. Oh, I was such an asshole. So many cringy moments. And now, I mean, it's a good thing to be able to see that. But unfortunately, now I think instead of it being religious, it's, you know, my so-and-so movement, you know, and it being something that can be offensive just by, saying something that I was ignorant about. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I also think, it creates more separation than unity when someone's like, I am, I've known people that are like, I'm a lesbian, but I have sex with guys sometimes, but I'm a lesbian. I'm not bisexual. No, I'm a lesbian. It's like, and the reason is because they have this community that they want to connect with.
Yeah.
And
we all feel that way.
And it's like everybody at the end of the day, like we all want to be accepted. Yeah. We all want to be like loved and like
happy,
and it's like, so what can, the real question is, what can we do to create more unity than divide? And anytime you're lashing out or making assumptions or calling someone a label without being properly educated, that's what's creating more divide.
Yeah.
So maybe just educate yourself and be, as tactful as you can and just, common courtesy.
Absolutely. Common courtesy and common sense sometimes too. Yeah. I mean, have you had to face any kind of situation like that at all? In acting, in your yoga or anything like that?
Well, I guess, some people some people do make assumptions about me. Oh, as an actor.
Is that right?
As an actor, people who don't have a lot of experience with acting or people who are so far removed from that industry, the film industry or acting or storytelling, I have been asked, well, I can't trust you because you're an actor and you can deceive people. And to me, I feel like that's kind of like they don't understand.
Yeah. Not educated at all.
Right. It's sort of like it's a judgmental, uneducated thing to say, but without being like, that's just stupid, and like lashing out at them, I'll be like, well, I can appreciate where you're coming from there because you're not, how would they know?
Right.
We all have our own limited perspective. So instead of like being mean to them, being like, you're an idiot and you're judgmental and what the hell? Just educating them a little bit, an actor learns how to be authentic within a different reality. You're not lying, you're not deceiving. And also there's a social agreement with the audience. I'm not actually deceiving.
Right.
They're paying to be deceived in a sense. They're paying to be told a fictional story.
Yeah.
But, if it's a good fictional story, the best fictional stories reveal universal truths.
Right.
So you're actually presenting a truth.
Yeah.
And it's not about deceiving people. And so that whole thing, I can't trust you because you're an actor. It's, I've had conversations like that with people just basically explaining like,
really?
if you're an actor, you're actually trying to express a truth.
Yeah.
An authentic truth. And you're trying to be authentic.
Right.
You are being authentic.
Yeah.
Within, a different reality, a different story,
it's a job.
Yeah. And so,
wow.
So that has happened to me. And then I guess there have been certain times where people have asked like, oh, well, you're a yoga teacher. You're a yogi. You're one of those. Like you're in that community. So they do make assumptions about you based on that. Like, oh, does that mean you're like out there or like,
super spiritual.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
stereotypical.
Yeah. It's like there's a stereotype to everything.
Oh, Lord. Don't I know?
And so... just because I'm a yoga teacher doesn't mean, I go around like, basically preaching to anyone who doesn't do yoga and like it's like this, like, oppressive, like you have my way,
my way or the highway.
Yeah.
Type of thing. Yeah. I can understand. It's tough, man.
Yeah.
It's tough.
But those are the only times I think, no one's ever been like, I mean, I'm not transgender and,
Sure.
I don't identify, my sexuality is nothing that interesting. So like no one's I've never had that. But.
No, same. I think it's pretty generic in that kind of sense.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting, everyone gets curious when someone's different from how they identify themselves.
Yeah.
So.
And that's just happening more and more often lately as well.
Yeah.
Every year I feel like it gets more complicated.
Yeah. And it makes me wonder, what can we do to simplify it? Like, is there a way to just like create more unity? Like what can we do to create more unity, less divide, and more?
Maybe just talking.
I guess.
Yeah. Maybe just have everyone should do podcasts.
I'll just do podcasts. Yeah.
Well, then you can have an accurate talk. Because to your point, a lot of people do like to hide behind their social media. You know, they'll portray their, you know, ideal image, you know, and take very specific pictures and all this. Not saying that those things are bad.
Yeah.
You know, but even like cultivating a message or getting different points of view across, like being able to talk like we are now, completely different experience than
face to face.
Yeah.
And I mean, so much of communication is nonverbal anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, I can like feel your energy and like, you know, sense there's more senses that we have other than just like looking, you know, visually and reading text. All social media is looking at pictures and reading text.
Right.
And that's limited in what you can communicate that way.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, that's been a crash course for me lately, man. I mean, communicating.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not only with the podcast, but like in general.
Yeah.
I gotta ask you this. So do you find it difficult to be honest with people? You know, I guess in a relationship sense.
Like in a romantic relationship?
Yeah. Or even like with just friends. Like
friends?
Either or. Like, do you find it difficult to be like, you know, I'm feeling like this because of blah, blah, blah?
Well, I think it depends on the person.
I see.
Who I'm relating to.
Gotcha.
So, you know, I have friends that are very Christian and family that are very, very Christian. And I have a lot of respect and I understand why they believe the things they do. You know, some people might think that yoga originated from a non-Christian thing and, you know, they might have questions about that. So it's just, I don't have a problem being honest, but I just have a problem. I'm more careful and conscientious and tactful in not offending.
Gotcha.
You know, not coming off like, you're wrong, I'm right kind of thing.
Gotcha.
You know?
Gotcha, yeah.
But it depends on the person. You know, there are certain people that I feel way more free around.
Yeah.
You know, and I can be I tend to like to bring levity to a lot of things.
Yeah.
And like
that's what I love about
make a
you,
lot
man.
of jokes.
Yeah.
And so, you know, some people they get offended easily. And so I feel like I can't make those jokes around them.
Right.
So I feel like with some people I have to have more of a filter. So in a way that isn't, I guess, it's just a filter. I wouldn't say it's dishonest.
Sure.
It's just not like the whole, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in general, you know, I try to practice what I preach with yoga and whatnot and just, you know, be authentic. But with certain jobs, like everyone has somewhat of a social mask.
Oh yeah.
Like, you
absolutely.
know, it's tiring. With certain jobs, you can't tell your customer if they're irritating you or making you mad. The customer's always right. So, you know, in certain contexts, you have to have a social mask for survival.
Sure.
So it really just depends on the context and the person. But yeah, I mean, there have been times where it's been difficult for me to, it's like, okay, how do I put this delicately?
Yeah.
How do I express this in a way that's not going to offend, knowing your background and your perspective, and how can I express this point in a way that's honest, but not offensive.
Yeah.
So it's like, you just have to take a moment and process all that before I, you know, just say something like that's
right. Yeah. Just off the cuff.
Right.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
What about you? Do you have a difficult time being on it?
I mean, for me, it's interesting because I found like one thing I learned about myself the past year, so much stuff happened. Jesus. Well, I find with people I already know, it's easier now just to be honest. Because like for me, relationship wise, again, this is it. This is how I feel, and that's how it is for me.
Yeah.
You know, that's my truth. That works. But then meeting new people, like, you know, I just got ghosted, you know, recently.
Aww.
And that's one thing that if you could say triggers me, that's one thing that triggers me. Because when I was younger, there was a moment, and I think it was my fault. So my friends, I am sorry. I don't know what I did, but that's what happened. Is like I would hang out with. I had a group of friends, and we would hang out, smoke, get high or whatever, and play music or go out driving or just hanging out.
Yeah.
And then I just got ghosted. No reason that I knew of.
Aww.
And so
they just stopped reaching out.
That's it.
Stopped responding.
Yeah, like I would reach
that's
out.
The worst.
It's horrible.
Because you're just left to wonder why.
Yeah.
If I upset you, just let me know.
Please,
I can
just tell me.
apologize. Like, what if it was unintentional? Like, why?
Right.
Like, you just left to wonder why.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. At least recently, I found that it really bothered me, and before I would never even think about it.
Yeah.
But now, like something like that happened recently, where I was getting to know someone, and things were cool, I thought, and then all of a sudden, nothing. And there was a point where, like, I had to do some growing up. It's like, well, if they wanted to have, if they cared for me like they said they did, they would make time. No one's above a text.
Yeah.
No one's above like something.
Yeah.
And that's what, So, yeah.
Yeah, I understand. That's always tough.
Yeah. I mean, I try to be understanding, because I mean, not everyone can be as honest, as you want them to be, or can be upfront. It's like, well, just tell me. And then maybe for them, it's like a big deal to be that honest.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, I think it's better just to get things out in the open.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, when you're like, the dating game is another story altogether, because it's like, you want to be honest and truthful, but how much of that truth do you reveal right away? Right. How much is appropriate? Sure. And then it becomes
culturally.
Yeah, and it becomes this like game of like, I can't text too much. I can't text too little.
I gotta wait 48 hours.
Yeah, these like silly rules and stuff.
Jesus.
And then a lot of I've had a lot of male friends back in the day who felt like they had to put up a facade. They had to act a certain way and play these games in order to get a certain type of female attention. Like, oh no, you have to kind of insult her a little bit. That way she'll feel like she has to like, it's like these pickup artistry manuals that they would like talk about religiously as if it,
these dudes?
These were guys.
Oh my God.
And, they would talk about these like pickup artist books, like, no, see, you have to insult the girl. You have to be a dick. Nice guys finish last. You have to be an asshole. And to me, I'm like, okay, first of all, that may attract, that method, it may attract a certain type of female.
Sure.
For a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
But eventually, first of all, you're not being your authentic self unless you actually do become that, and that's who you are. And so you're going to feel isolated and alone. And so if she likes you, she doesn't actually like you. She likes this character you're playing, this douchebag character you're playing.
They're being
deceptive. So you're not creating any real connection. And if that's actually what you want, is a real connection, that's not going to happen. And then the person it's going to attract, it's just assuming they're not going to see through that. Right. That they're not going to see that you're just like, like macho. Playing this role, which isn't you. Yeah. And I think, men can underestimate how intuitive women can be.
Absolutely.
And see through all that little like, hey, I'm gonna cut you down a few notches to cover up my insecurity. Oh my God. Like, then you're gonna have to win yourself over to me. Like,
oh Lord.
But there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I think at the end of the day, at a certain age, I'm sure guys just might want to just like get laid for the night or whatever. But eventually, people want real connection.
Well, I agree. I gotta be honest. I never really. I don't know. I've always thought there was something wrong with me since I was a little kid, because I've always loved, the wooing. Like I love, getting to know someone, having some repartee, having some kind of common interest, some relationship type of stuff. Like that always to me was way more attractive than just the physical. Yeah. I don't see how some dudes are just about the physical. To me, it's like, at the end of the day, it's nothing. Yeah. It's vapid. Yeah. You're not there's nothing there to offer. Like you're just there to fuck or something, and then that's it. What's so appealing about that?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, some people, they feel like the physical experience is enough for a moment. It's gratifying for a moment.
Temporary.
Like we were talking about temporary gratification versus long-term happiness and ultimate fulfillment. Just because you might, being graphic, get off.
Sure.
That's temporary gratification. Is that ultimate fulfillment? And one of these guys who actually, we used to preach about these tactics, these like pickup artistry tactics. To me, like, see, Kim, this is how it works. It works like this. This is how women are, and blah, blah, blah.
Whoa.
Educate me on how women are.
Yeah.
He would be like, yeah, you know, I hooked up with this girl last night, and afterwards I was just like, what am I doing with my life? I have no real connection with you at all. I just thought you were hot. It's just like a temporary thing.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, like, the physical act of sex can be a lot more meaningful and a lot deeper and a lot more intense on every level.
Absolutely. More rewarding.
If you have more of an emotional connection, a real emotional connection where two people understand each other.
Oh, man. You can't beat that.
So, like, I mean, that's just where I'm coming from. But, you know, I mean, to each their own, I guess. But
I suppose, man. I don't know. I don't get it. And I honestly think those kind of dudes, and it seems to be the majority, maybe they're just the loudest. I don't know. But I think they kind of just perpetuate this negative.
Well, I also think it has to do with, you know, a cultural conditioning, being raised, watching too much TV, men feeling pressure like, oh, you know, I have to hook up with a certain amount of women to feel validated as a man. You know, I have to bang this amount of, it makes them feel it's an emotional thing that they're trying to fulfill. They want to feel validated. They want to feel like another notch on my belt makes me feel validated and important and special. Like, you know, and they're not mature enough to realize, like, this is about, I'm trying to fulfill this deeper need. They don't realize that it's a deeper need they're actually trying to fill in a shallow way. I mean, that's me being a psychologist, but, like, you know, some men people never grow out of that immature kind of,
dude, absolutely not
self-aware, you know.
So I mean, I'm with you. It's crazy. But I guess just that's what's being human. You know?
Yeah.
That's wild. Well, I think that's a great place to end it.
Okay.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Did you enjoy it?
No, this was really fun. It was stimulating conversation.
I know, right? Do you know how long we went for?
How long?
Well, just take a guess. I asked every guest.
Hour and a half?
Oh, bro. 2 hours.
2 hours?
2 hours.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's pretty dope, right?
Yeah, no, this is great. It didn't even feel like that long.
No. That's what good conversation does. Yeah.
Talked about art, health,
a little bit of
life.
Yeah. Films, writing, wokeness.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. I mean, do you want to plug your YouTube channel? Can people find it right now?
Sure. So if you want to follow me on Instagram, Kim_Ham22, I post sometimes yoga pictures with yoga quotes, and I post film-related things. My Facebook's just Kimberly Hamilton. My personal YouTube channel, where I've posted some films, is just Kimberly Hamilton. My healthy lifestyles, yoga tutorials, and nutrition, the YouTube channel is just Yoga Flow with Kim.
Okay. Yoga Flow with Kim.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, these guys will be right on it. We'll get you a couple of subscribers, some views. No worries. Well, thank you so much for sitting in.
Thank you for having me. This is really fun.
We'll do it again. It'll be awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you.
All right. Take it easy. See you next week.
Take care of yourself. Peace.
Peace.